And obviously, when we bring the chat folks in on this, if you hear things we're talking about, you think it'd make a good episode or a segment. I think eventually we're going to segment this up a little bit more. We would love to hear that you want to hear about it, because we think all of our words are precious and interesting. But I'd like to hear from people. No, Jimmy's like, no.
And feel free to tell us when to shut up too. So I think Big Snack's onto something, though, if you look at a couple of his comments. And so rules about metagaming and penalties for doing so. I think that's depending on the GM and depending on the scenario, you don't want people going in and looking at the monster manual, right? I mean, there's certainly situations where the role-playing aspect should overtake the metagaming, the rules. And the GM, as we already discussed, I mean, in my opinion, I think the three of you, that the GM is the arbiter. And if I say it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what the rule book really says.
Yeah. This comes
I think you said that wrong, Matt. I think it's arbitoire.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, I forget my French accent.
Arbitoire.
I'll drink for that.
What are your three fave game systems, Matt?
Shadowrun, D&D 5th edition, and I wouldn't have thought about it earlier, but Earth Dawn's kind of creeping in there. But I'll have to, if I'm honest with myself, Pathfinder 1st edition Pathfinder. I haven't played enough 2nd edition yet to really. But yeah, Shadowrun for sure, 5th edition, and Pathfinder.
So real quick, I'm going to come back and ask each of the other guys this question real quick. What's your favorite game that you don't run or never run? The one you have on your shelf because you bought it because the cover was good, or you heard somebody tell you it was freaking brilliant, but you have not run it.
Oh, that's a cruel.
For me, it's DCC. It's Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love everything about that deal, but I've never run a game.
You will on the channel, because I just bought it. They just released for Fantasy Ground. I think I just played my first one. I was phenomenal with the funnel. That was a blast.
The funnel is the best.
God, I had so much fun with that.
So what else? What do you got there, Bri? What do you got, Matt?
Is Steven still on the channel? I'll make sure I don't say his game.
No, he backed out. He has a game to run. Him and Beth both backed out. DCC is a lot. It looks like a lot of fun. In fact, I kind of chickened out of an opportunity to play it at Gamehole Con here last November. But that's one of the ones that I bought, and I have never I haven't even really cracked the book.
There's our first partner game right there. I'm going to run it for
good deal. What about you, Bri?
Legends of the Five Rings.
Oh, dude, I will run some L5R for you.
Okay, so I was going to come back to L5R because we were talking about like games that we really wanted to run. L5R is one of those games that I ran in the past and I loved immensely because it was so good for role playing.
Oh,
so lethal for combat.
Oh, a death spiral. If those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we'll get into it in a different session. Yeah. So what about you, Jimmy? What do you want to run? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to get a good segue in that this channel is not only going to be us chatting about our skills. It's also, we will be playing stuff as well. So if there's some games out there that you think that we should play, that you would like, for example, by all means, throw them out there. I think L5R would be that'd be a great game to start. Yeah.
So I'll just say for my part on this topic that this will sound horribly pretentious, probably, and old school, but I am a judge. It is my job to rule it on things, make judgments about things. So the rules are really there when I can't make a judgment. If someone says to me, I corner the shadow and I'm about to attack with my magic weapon, and they technically only get one attack, but they're like, but I got him pinned. Can I get another attack in? I might say in that moment, yeah, you take 2 attacks. You got him pinned. And somebody else might look at me and be like, yo, dude, you can't give him 2 attacks and not give me 2 attacks. But that was my judgment in the moment. I didn't ruin your fun by not letting you have 2 attacks all the other times. You had fun, but now this person's getting to do this. And I let people know that right off the bat, that I'm going to judge this game. I'm aware of things that they're not aware of. I'm aware of all the secrets. I'm aware of the weather. I'm aware of how slippery that lichen on the side of that mountain really is. I don't have a stat for it, But if they decide they're going to run up the side of the mountain, I'm going to make a really tough check for them not to fall to their death. And they just have to, if they say, what page is that on? I just want them to know from session 0, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen that aren't on a page.
It's on page. Shut the fuck up. Enjoy
Yeah. And I've got, one of my friends who plays in my game is actually in chat right now. We went back and forth because he wanted to believe, I think, and he's right, he's not wrong, that there's a right or better or official way of doing things, and the idea is to run it that way. I just don't do it that way. I don't mind looking things up if people really care, but generally I just make judgments. So I like to share that right off the bat. And I don't actually share that much about the setting or the theme or the tone. I kind of always run the same campaign too. Always has politics, always has horror, always has, mystical things going on. I like to run high magic, so people kind of know what I run. And my 3 favorites are L5R, by far, best task resolution system
Preach, brother.
ever. It allows you to bet on your outcome. It allows you to make raises. I could easily make that check, Mr. GM. I want a harder check because I don't want to just kill the guy. I want to kill him, take his sword from him, and cut off his head. So I can get a number that I have to hit for that. It's brilliant.
I didn't name my character Musashi so I could take easy DCs.
Right, or Hagakure. Exactly. And then exactly. In fact, I played a character that was so honorable that I was never allowed to use any form of deception. So I had to wear bright kimonos all the time, and I always had to confront people directly. There was never any subterfuge. Great game for role playing. Call of Cthulhu. I don't even think I really know the rules that well. I just really can run a Call of Cthulhu game. So that's my second favorite. And then I play Arcana Evolved, which is a D&D variant, but D&D. That would be my third one. And the one I don't run yet but would love to is DCC, without question. I think that's just super dope. So that takes us into, we talk a little bit about systems, and systems all have tone. I think, Brian talked about running kind of a grimdark vibe in his game, so World of Darkness makes a lot of sense. I know that Matt has a high nerd quotient, so I could see how Shadowrun would be really interesting because it's sci fantasy, right? So that kind of segues into our next thing. Like when we gather and we're trying to set the style of play, like, what does that even mean really to people? I mean, what does that mean to you, Matt? Like, what's the style? Is it just like humor or not humor, horror or not horror? Is it, what does it mean to you if you have to describe your style?
So I tend to inject quite a bit of, I try to inject, I wouldn't say that I'm funny by any stretch, but I try to inject a good bit of humor into the game. I feel like that is by far more memorable than just I know we're going to get controversial here, but box text.
Rage quit.
Keyboard thrown.
going outside the box text and trying to inject a little bit of humor and giving some personality to the NPCs that are involved in that adventure, I think are go a long way towards providing my style to the game, or imprinting my style in the game.
I wanted to imprint your goblin in our Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtest with my mace.
I have a guilty confession. When I go into a business meeting with clients, I always have to make sure that I can swear, and if they laugh, I know I've got a good client. If they really are serious, I'm like, might want to pass. I have the same rule in my games. If I can't get everyone to laugh at least once, like I feel like I'm not doing like the full job. And there'll always be that holdout who's just like really serious. They're looking at they're making a lot of small notes on their player sheet. If you can get that kind of laugh, you're doing your job. What about you, Brian? Mm-hmm. What's your style? What would people take away from your game?
So again, I have a very particular style and the games that I run are all pretty serious. I don't generally do very funny games. If I wanted to play a Monty Python game, I would. I don't. So I like seriousness. I like drama. I like tension. I like conflict. So obviously the games that I probably, mentioned are good for that sort of thing, but that doesn't mean it's good for everyone. We were talking earlier, like, okay, we could play a particular game. Let's say I said, hey, let's run some Dragonlance. The four of us are going to be like, oh, shit, yeah, Dragonlance. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play that. Someone might want to play a dwarf. Someone might want to play a Kender. Someone might want to play a Tinker Gnome. Someone might want to play, some High Lord or a Paladin or something. Very, very, very different characters. And you either have to be an amazing GM to weave a story around a disparate group like that, or just say, look, here's the kind of theme and tone that I want to run, and I would like characters that match that. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there too is I always think of people like that are in or out of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's that Kender who's going to be a little goofball, then he's like, I don't mind including a Kender or something like a goofier character in a more serious game, as long as they are cool with understanding that they're the odd one. Like everybody else is super dark, and they're the goofy one who doesn't really understand why everything has to be so serious.
Yeah. So if I can, let me caveat that by saying when I'm talking comedy, I don't mean, I mean mirth, not Monty Python.
Right.
Just
right.
saying.
I suspected.
Brian.
The shame stare. Directed at you, Brian, the shame stare. What about you, Jimmy? Like what I've watched you, so I kind of have some idea, but I'd like to hear you discuss it.
My theme.
Terrible.
Yeah, the way the games run, total chaos. No. So for the channel, so I had to go back looking at the channel because that's the latest stuff with Praetor's Rejects. The theme has always been, I am not a fan of the one that min-maxes, or they're going to be the hero that vanquishes all the monsters and they can do no wrong. We're all rejects.
That's good.
And
that's
that's the theme of the channel has been, I want they're going to make mistakes. So let's play off of them. I'm going to make mistakes. Definitely play off of them and take advantage of them. But I like the players to, and it's hard sometimes because you catch it where they are going to do something in character that is totally left field. I mean, they are gone. I've got a Monday night. Gary knows what I'm talking about. One of the players, he's got a mad scientist and he is all over the place, and it's funny. And it then pulls to the storyline. And I think you have to have those extra engagements, especially on the virtual side, because that's the engage, and you've got to have that. Other than sitting around the table, you're having fun with it. But if I'm running all videos or you've got the tabletop going, how do you want the people to watch? Because I'm also worried about my viewers and being engaged. I
just got called out in the chat room, so I'm just going to take a drink.
Yeah. So for me, it's my stuff is the rejects, and I try to play off of that as much as I can. And I'm not always good at it. Yeah.
So Jimmy,
yes,
I want to say that I love that, and I actually am one of the few people that love character flaws. When I design, I love having weaknesses. I love characters that have flaws. I love backgrounds that maybe you weren't always good. Maybe you're a paladin now, but because you're overcompensating for something horrible that you've done in the past. And that might apply to me. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Yeah. But flaws
all
are great.
My players had to make a major flaw outside of the table rolls when you're rolling up your characters. I want something deeper. I want something dark. I want something that you haven't told anybody. And then also there was a post. It was a Twitter post about my GM had his characters develop 5 truths and lies and rumors about him, and I've started invoking that in one of the games.
That's awesome.
I thought that was phenomenal. And
my youth game, I'm running a youth game next week again with 6 teenagers from 13 to 18 or so. And one of the very first thing was they all had to write a secret about themselves in an envelope and give it to me. And then they had to write their true name, because in our game system, if your true name is revealed, healing works differently, but you can also be summoned if your true name is known. So some people keep their true name hidden. And then one player actually said, I don't even want to know my true name. So you write my true name and put it in the secret envelope. And and so then later she quested for it and learned her true name. Right. So this inspiration comes from anywhere, really, yeah, I'd say that, my play style is really fast and loose. Anybody who knows me probably not surprised by that. I also use a lot of modern cultural references because I want my players I want them to use their imagination, but I also want them to have some reference. So I might say everybody's blown back by the wind in slow motion, like bullet time from The Matrix, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Because now we have that touchstone where we can all work on. Now, I know there are people who think, it takes you out of the game and so on and so forth, but I've never really met anybody who really had that complaint. Like, it's more of a theoretical complaint, I think. Like, they think it would be bad, but when they play the game, they don't seem to be bothered by it. So, and I would say also my game is very much about listening to my players. I take copious notes when they are busy. And the best tricks that I ever play on them, if you call them tricks, is I'll ask a profound question of their characters. I'm not particularly profound myself, but a character can do that. And they'll just start talking. And I just sit back, man, and I just listen to them and I write notes. I write notes about everything they say, or I'm, somehow recording it. And then that all flows back in. I use those same ideas later in the game because now they're already in those people's heads. I don't have to provide them. They're providing themselves. And I can never provide an experience as serious as one that's going already on in someone's head.
Agreed.
So, you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You know what I mean? It's just hard to know how to get there, sometimes. But yeah, I would say.
Well, I think that's a serious. I mean, we started the conversation earlier, an hour ago almost, with what kind of DM are you? And I think that's a serious distinction between the arbiter and the guy who is facilitating. Like, the arbiter dude is the guy that is telling you how the story is going, and the facilitator is listening to the players and saying, all right, this is how I will answer your questions. And I'm telling you versus I'm answering your questions.
And I think that going all the way back, I'm glad you touched about going back, because this is what I was thinking about earlier. Why do we all gather around a table? Why do we all subject ourselves to the threat of death or bad things? Why do we subject ourselves to a random die that can let us down at the most inopportune moments, which happens all the time? Like the best stories
every time.
I rolled that fumble. In fact, I hear more stories about people rolling fumbles than I do about people rolling crits.
I think that's the truth. Yeah.
2 to 1, I would guess, for me. And I think it's because there is a psychology, a therapeutic function that's going on, not to get all high-minded about it, by gathering together, and you're like working with each other to get through stuff. You don't even know what it is. But I've seen people really change their personality over the course of a game, and I've seen some of those effects linger on in their life. I've seen people have success, and I almost feel like they're more confident afterwards.
I just want a quick shout out to our friends over there at Skull Splitter Dice.
Hey,
earlier.
Yeah,
thanks, Skull Splitter.
Yeah. For those of you who have just been kind of following along, earlier on we had Stephen Radley McFarlane and Beth Damus playing along and talking smack with us. So,
and they had to leave to run a game.
They've been in and out.
I think Beth is still here. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out why the messages aren't showing up in the chat.
Yeah, and Devil Dog. Devil Dog. Sorry about the moderated deleted ones. We'll figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what that is. 19 messages. Somebody's popping the channel. I got to figure out what it is.